But quicker deliver the V trigger. It's picking up Lucha Bros versus Young Bucks. Many have tried.
All Elite family. Let's get ready to podcast.
Hey, this is Cole Cabana. Check out the All Elite podcast. All Elite. All Elite.
Welcome back, All Elite family, to another exciting episode of Wednesday night's main event. We are fresh off another episode of Wednesday Night Dynamite. I am here once again with my boy, All Elite fan, Bitter Mark, professional wrestling nerd, All Elite AJ. His video isn't working. That explains why we're a little bit late this week, but we do have his picture from 7-Eleven here right to this side. So for anybody watching at home, you get that lovely picture to check out as well as my video feed. AJ, how are you doing off of this episode, man?
I'm doing really good. This was another really good episode of Elite Wrestling. And
I think it was even better than last week, if you ask me.
I kind of do, too. Yeah, this one had no bumps. The whole show was good, top to bottom. It was exciting the whole time.
Yeah, man, there was nothing I could complain about. Before, I guess, we jump into Dynamite, though, we should talk about Dark. We did get AEW's first episode of Dark last night. It was put on the YouTube channel. I do just want to briefly get into that, AJ. What did you think of Dark? We're not going to go through every match by match, but what were your thoughts overall?
I thought it was a really excellent show. I thought it was a good overall. I thought it was way better than what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be quick, dark matches or kind of matches to be swept under the rug. It was not that at all. We got some really good matches. We got the Jungle Express versus SCU, which was great. We had Shima and Darby Allin wrestling. There was a lot of great stuff. There was good wrestling to watch here. It's not just a secondary show. This is something you might want to really see.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's definitely not. I would not call it a secondary. I mean, I guess technically a secondary.
It
show,
is, but
like,
it's not like main event.
In terms of the quality of wrestling and everything that I saw on that show, I was so pleased. It was an hour long, super comfy. The first match was really awesome. I think every other match after that was good to great. Oh well, I guess the women's match it left a lot to be desired, but it still showcased Penelope Ford in a way that I hadn't seen her really before. So in that circumstance, I think it still really paid off despite the tag match itself not being so great. So I thought that was really good, and I thought they did a great job with that. And I think overall, like the Jungle Boy match, they did a great job at showcasing those guys as well, because that was something I noticed again this week. No actual appearance of Jurassic Express, so on the actual TV show, which isn't the end of the world because they are being showcased on this other show. But I guess definitely they'll be showcased next week anyway. But I think maybe we should have had a little bit more for the tag teams this week, but we'll jump into that.
Yeah.
But like overall, I think that Dark was a really great show, and I think it set the tone as the first show and many shows to come after that. Because if you have heard, one of the matches filmed for Dark this week is Joey Janela versus Kenny Omega. So I mean, if you're a fan of professional wrestling and you've been watching independent wrestling in any way, shape, or form, Janela versus Omega is a match that could have been built up for Joey Janela's Spring Break 4 as like the biggest match on the card
for
one of the biggest shows in independent wrestling. So the fact that it's being used for this show, I'm not even seeing it as a throwaway. I'm seeing it as a must-see. Like, there is no reason you shouldn't tune in, even if you happen to know who wins. And I'm honestly going to try and sort of steer clear from any spoilers on that one, just because it's such an exciting match. Now, in this day and age, it's a little hard to steer clear of spoilers, but I didn't necessarily know everything that was going to happen on this week's episode of Dark, so... And I guess the one other thing I want to mention is that the matches on Dark are pretty clearly they're taped and they're edited, but not in a bad way. And I think that's a really good thing as well that I wanted to just mention.
I agree with that.
Is that like we read that they were about 15 minutes long per match, but when they were actually shown, they were about 10 minutes long, really quick. Like they cut out all of the BS, and I thought that was really good for if you're gonna do this type of taped show. Like get rid of any type of like headlocks and like the slower down stuff, and just make it a great fun match. And I think they did that really well.
No, I think you're exactly right. And overall, I think the show is just a show worth watching. That's what I should say.
It set the tone to make me... It wasn't the same in the sense of Dynamite where it was like I have to tune in for storyline purposes next week. But I do feel like I have to tune in because there's going to be great matches on it every week, and that is exciting in and of itself.
Yep, absolutely. With a roster that is, definitely there to be explored and very big.
Yeah, and that's a big part of it, too, is you have such a diverse and huge roster within AEW that you have to showcase different people in different ways, and this is a beautiful way to do it. Just today, there was about 500,000 views on it. Now, that's not exactly what I guess you would want. But honestly, for the first show, it's nothing to be disappointed in any way, shape, or
Yeah.
form.
Oh no, I agree.
But overall, Dark is something to definitely keep an eye on if you're a fan of the AEW product. But if you're a fan of the product, you are obviously tuned in tonight to AEW Just Dynamite. What an awesome show, as AJ already said.
Yeah.
We kicked off the show with Private Party versus the Young Bucks in a super, quick, high-paced, awesome showcase
Awesome
match
match.
for Private Party. I was proved incredibly wrong about any trash talking I did with AJ privately before this show.
Yep.
What a match,
Great.
man! What are your thoughts?
Fantastic. Top to bottom, an amazing match. Definitely blew me away because after all that trash talking, I was kind of ready to go on the anti-private party bandwagon too. I was like, you know what? I don't think I like him either. But that absolutely blew me away. Private Party was fantastic. This match, the Young Bucks were too, and they gelled so well together. Like, these are two teams with perfect chemistry. I have nothing but good things to say about this match.
Yeah, I'm not in love with Private Party's gimmick still, but last week, the way they were showcased on Dark, I didn't necessarily love their showcase, and I thought that they might end up falling short of what we initially imagined for them. But then in this match, I was just continually surprised and this is awesome,
Yeah.
this is awesome. And I was also like, this is a moment, this is when you guys can do it. You can really give these guys this type of push, and it'll make sense. And that doesn't happen in wrestling a lot. A lot of times in wrestling, the crowd, the decision's obviously made beforehand, but the crowd generally will have this huge feeling of, oh, do this, and then it doesn't happen. One instance that takes me back to it where it blows up in somebody's face is when Roman Reigns did those 11 eliminations in the Royal Rumble. He really had the crowd behind him. Now they tried to push him as a huge face later on, and it didn't work. In this instance, they had the crowd behind them, and they got the surprise win that no one was really expecting. And I was so shocked at that. The Young Bucks obviously going for their finish, and Isaiah Cassidy catches him. Mark Quinn with the roll-up, 1, 2, 3. It totally blew my mind. It was not expected. I think that's going to be the thing that everyone's talking about the most this week is how the hell did this happen? Private Party with an upset victory over the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks now sitting at a 3-3 overall record as a team. This is, and people are complaining or have been complaining leading up to this, and it's fine. And we were kind of on that same bandwagon of being oh, the Young Bucks are they're going to win this whole tournament or whatever. And the upset really happened. Something that I think we've maybe discussed in a sense of oh man, that would be cool if it happened, but they'll never do it. And and going up to it, I was thinking about it, and I was like, man, Tony Khan, because they did an interview and they said, oh, Tony, we wanted to lose, but Tony wouldn't really let us lose up until this point. And I was like, well, there's no way in hell he's going to let him lose this one. But now it makes more sense. This means so much more for Private Party with the Young Bucks hardly losing.
Yep, and now you have the Young Bucks ready to go into a program with LAX, who aren't in the tournament either.
Yes, and
which is also
so perfect. Because you can, there's multiple tag team storylines that are about to occur, and it's holy crap.
It's really, really well done, and damn, it took me completely off guard, but this was a great match, top to bottom. That shooting star press, I thought that was the finish. I popped really hard and I marked out. I thought that was it.
And then I was bummed because I was like, well, that was the spot they could have done it. They could have really taken that opportunity, and instead they didn't, at least at first.
Yeah. My God, that was a good match.
Yeah, man. So, but really that match was super exciting. The finish came off as something that you were, like I said, we had talked about, but we didn't expect it, and it was they did it so perfectly. It was at the top of the card. Another thing that we had discussed, man, that should be the opening match. That would be really a good way to start the second episode. And we were right. That was a great way to start it, especially with a shocking, holy crap. And that's really smart too. And that's where I think AEW will be a little bit different, especially in terms of this war. And social media is because you have to think about it, and if they're doing something holy crap, this happened, and now it's on social media for the next 45 minutes, whoever's looking at anything about wrestling on Twitter or whatever is going to check this out. So
for sure. And it's we've been talking about, such a huge part, that social media influence that's going to be a part of this. Just whatever is the best thing going on right then, people are going to know that that's the best thing going on.
For sure, and they were absolutely able to hold that audience going into the next segment because we have Chris Jericho come out with his group of Sammy Guevara, LAX, and Jake Hager. We don't really have a name for them initially. Jericho comes out and cuts a fantastic promo. Like, he introduces us to everyone individually. He gets to Jake Hager, and everybody starts chanting "We the People," and they get that moment as fans to really like do it. And I was sort of like, okay, they're going to embrace that. That's different, but that's fine, I guess, because it didn't seem like that was going to be something they would do. But then next thing you know, Jericho flips it on him, and it's just like, that was a stupid gimmick given by stupid creative. Like, and you were like, holy shit. And
it's
it was
so good.
Yeah, and the way he presented it was so fantastic. And he flipped it to where I think like the crowd was briefly about to start chanting like, "We the People" again. But they had sort of realized, like, no, that's not what we're going to do. We're going to chant AEW instead. And I think that's the difference between this type of programming is Jericho had them in the palm of his hand, man. So.
No, he absolutely did. And like you said, this was just a great promo, and it was a great Jericho promo where we really got to open up to see each and every person here, but it was still Jericho clearly in the lead, and I liked that a lot. It wasn't like he was tossing the mic over to each and every one. He was still the main guy.
Yeah, it wasn't like, oh, we're going to hear from him, and then we'll hear from every single person, and everybody gets 2 minutes. Like, and in the meanwhile, he made every person that he spoke about look like $1 million, and he made even Hager sound great. So I think it was a sweet promo, and like, as far as promos in AEW, that's pretty much the first one we've got that really took over what was going on the show, and that was really good as well. So no complaints here by me.
And did we mention they did get a name, that being the Inner Circle?
Yes, absolutely. The Inner Circle is Jericho and his group, and it wasn't a bad name at all. I honestly thought they were leaning into something more related with the list, and because he's like,
I did
Sammy
too.
G is on the list, and I was like, Jericho and his list. I was like, you can get everything over, but I don't know if you can get it over twice, dude. But it worked out. They come out as the Inner Circle, and that's a good name for these guys. I think it works out really well and sort of explains why Jericho brought them in.
Yeah.
And from there, we go to Darby Allin versus Jimmy Havoc in a match that I think a lot of people were questioning. And I think the best part is that we got to have our questions like aired on live TV because we have Pac on commentary. And Pac is just continually questioning, why am I not involved in this match? Why is this number one contenders match involving these guys who aren't me? And it wasn't necessarily in a way that took away from the match or what we were seeing on TV, but it still presented the case of, well, why is Pac not involved in this? Why isn't someone who has the most victories involved in something like this? So,
this was also just a really good match. I think that was the other thing, because my initial was like, man, it's Darby Allin versus Jimmy Havoc, which isn't a bad match, but you know what? It's not a match that I'm thinking, wow, that one's definitely going to be a great match to be a contendership for the title. But it was actually very, very well done top to bottom.
Yeah, I think that Jimmy Havoc doesn't necessarily scream someone that can have the best matches in the world to me. He's very good in his deathmatch style or hardcore style, you might say. But as far as like just a straight wrestler, he's probably a lot better than I think, and I'm probably not giving him enough credit. But to me, he's not someone I go out of my way to watch a lot. But against someone like Darby, I'm like more intrigued because they have the same type of style. But at the same time, and because Darby has had these string of great matches that I'm like, okay, Darby, let's see what you've got against this guy. And he did a really good job, and I think Jimmy did a good job in his position as well. I think both guys did really good. I don't think it was necessarily the best match of the night or anything that was super crazy, but it did a good job at establishing a number one contender. Yeah. And like I said, we got a lot of our questions answered through Pac on commentary. Maybe not answered, but we got to have them aired, our grievances of, well, why is this happening, and why am I not getting my opportunity? And we got to see Pac further that later on in the show. So I thought it was a fantastic way to set it up and then continue on it, and it hit me like throughout Pac's commentary. I was like, this is how they make storylines, guys. Like, we can't just say, oh, he has the most wins, he has to get like into the championship picture. Like, no, this is a form of a storyline where Pac is like, what the hell is going on? Why am I being screwed over? And you can look at it from like a realistic booking perspective of saying, well, if I'm a booker, dude, we tried to put you in that match against Paige and you like bailed, and that would have been a number one contenders match, but you bailed. So we're not just going to throw you in another one right away. But then we get that story played out this way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you.
And what a fantastic job. Like, again, and I'm thinking while I'm watching it, I'm like, perfect, dude. Instead of having him come and cut a promo in between two matches, like,
You put him on
you put him
commentary.
on commentary, and he's able to cut the promo the whole freaking match, and that was sweet. I loved it.
It just makes a lot of sense, yeah.
And then from there we get Rio and Britt Baker against Bea Priestley and Emi Sakura. This was really just like a pretty good, nothing to complain about. Probably better than the tag team women's match we saw on
Yeah,
Dark
much
earlier.
better, I
We
think.
watched Dark earlier today. And I mean, what were your thoughts, AJ?
My thoughts on this were it was one, like you said, in comparison, better than the other one we saw. It wasn't anything I would write home about. It wasn't like my favorite match here, but it was, I don't know. I think it did its job of being kind of a cool down in between Allen and Havoc and Moxley and Spears. So I thought, I don't know, it had its place on the card and it did its job, but it wasn't anything that I thought, wow, this is an amazing match. I'll never forget this.
Yeah, and I think that they've what they've done, at least for me, is raised a couple of questions, like who will be the one to face Rio next week. I think they pushed
Well, they
it a little
announced it,
bit that
didn't
it
they?
did they.
Yeah, they announced it as Britt Baker.
Oh, okay. So it makes a little bit. I wasn't totally paying attention, so I must have not heard that. And that's fantastic, and it makes a lot more sense with Britt picking up another victory in this tag team match, and Rio being able to be that extra babyface then of coming to the defense of someone that she's going to be facing in the future. So I think that it's cool or interesting to see that. I don't know. I didn't necessarily, like you say, love this match, but we're seeing the Britt Baker and Bea Priestley storyline continued in a way that they don't have to have a championship or anything involved. These two just clearly hate each other. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's not as crisp as we were expecting.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. It wasn't, there was something off about it, and honestly, I just can't place what it was. But overall, it was fine. Like, I can't think of anything bad to say about it either. So,
No, it
I don't know.
wasn't. Definitely nothing bad to say about it. I just think that the match itself, I think we have this idea of Britt Baker and Bea Priestley of having these really really good matches that they're only having good matches, and so because it's not really really good, we're thinking of it as a little bit underwhelming. But I think that's just our own high expectations, maybe.
Yeah, because especially with how great last week's match was, but that being a one-on-one, it is different. So I don't know. I think that you're about right. It's probably our own expectations, but what are you going to do in a tag match like this that would blow us away?
Yeah, so and like I said, it does at least establish a little bit that match for next week. I really
Yeah.
hope that well, I guess it would make sense that Rio probably comes out with the victory and B gets involved by attacking
Mm,
Britt next week or something of that nature, because I really don't want to see any championships necessarily change hands too quickly as we start things off.
yeah, I agree with that. I don't want to see any titles change hands until
That's
it's
why I
full
really
gear.
like Darby being the contender for the men's title, because while he's a viable contender and they really made him look good by the end of the show, he's still not someone that if he loses is going to be like, oh man, that sucks, or like you're going in with super high
Yeah,
expectations for. Whereas with Britt Baker, I guess I'm a little bit nervous that could be something that happens, and I guess
I
that's good
agree
looking,
100%.
but
It is because you don't want to know who's going to win, but
yeah.
boy, oh boy, I know who I don't want to
Yeah,
win.
and it's no offense to Britt. It's just like I've been so impressed by Rio up to this point that's who I'd like
Yeah.
to see continue on as women's champion for AEW. But
Mhm.
regardless, I think that Britt would be fine. I just don't want to see because I think
Way too early.
a lot of things I've realized recently is I'm programmed in a way where I've only watched WWE or pretty much WWE growing up for a majority of my lifetime. So I'm used to their way of angles and their way of stories, and the way this story would be told is Rio loses the title in 2 weeks to Britt, and then Britt and Bea are fighting over the title even though they don't need it. So I would much rather see it be something much more different where we have Bea and Britt continue on their feud, but not necessarily for a championship.
Yeah. Mhm.
But that like I said, it wasn't a bad tag team match, and again, they continue to showcase the women in a fantastic way. So
No, you're right, and as I think that's the main takeaway is that it was a showcase match for the women as well as a way to get that Britt Baker into a position.
And the one thing I guess I do want to mention and take note of at this point is I think Tony Khan had mentioned early on that with the women's division, he would also see a women's tag team tag team championships eventually be developed. And I think people were kind of like, haha, like how could you possibly do that? And I think this gives a little bit more of a credence to that because we've seen so many more tag team women's matches than I've used to seeing in general, at least as far as like them being given time to have a good tag team women's match. So I think this could be them really laying the groundwork for that really, really early on.
Yeah, that makes sense actually.
And then following this match, we get a best friends video package, and they're in the crowd being interviewed. And I think this was like, it was a little bit of an awkward. Again, every time they go to the crowd, it's awkward. So maybe we should stop. But
yeah, maybe we do need to stop that.
Yeah, they talk about how they face SCU in the tag team tournament next week, and they want a word from the best friends, and the best friends are like, "How about you ask this guy?" And they pan over to Orange Cassidy, and the crowd goes nuts. And that's really all there was for that because the lights go out for Shawn Spears, and JR obviously had no idea what the hell was going on because he's sitting there like, why are the lights out? What is Excalibur? This is your guy? Why? I think he thought Orange Cassidy was supernatural or something.
He had powers.
He was trying to get answers from Excalibur about Orange Cassidy when the lights were out for Shawn Spears.
Well, now it's my canon that it was in fact Orange Cassidy who took the lights out.
I hope so. I hope he does have powers like that because that would be nuts. At this point, Orange Cassidy is just such a fan. I love how over he is. The fact that he's
so over.
I'm so, like, I've been a fan of his and been enjoying what he does, but I never really expected it to get over this nature.
No,
so
never.
To see it every time that he's on TV, like, wow, everybody going nuts. I'm like, this is exactly what I want to see. So
it's so fun. It's so good.
And then, obviously, as we were saying, this cuts into Shawn Spears making his entrance. He gets to the ring, and then Jon Moxley comes out. We get Moxley versus Spears. AJ Spears is your guy, so run down this match for us.
Well, I didn't want to correct you because I didn't know at first, and then by the time I knew, you had already talked a lot about it, and I agreed with what you were saying. But this is the match where Pac was on commentary. Okay. So I just wanted to get that out of the way now.
Of course, I would overlook something like that.
Everything you said still applies. I just want to make sure that people aren't commenting about whatever.
Oh, they will.
But anyways.
They will be, brother.
But we corrected it. Anyways, this match, I thought it was a good match, but I thought it was an all-right match. And I'm going to say something that might be a little controversial, but ever since I started watching Jon Moxley in the G1, I have not been that impressed. And I don't mean that he's bad, because he's not bad. I haven't been like, wow, I really was missing out something ring-wise with Jon Moxley in WWE. Like, he seems like, he's a good wrestler, kind of like Shawn Spears, to be honest. They both seem like they have the same kind of...
he's just a good hand.
I didn't say that.
You're right, because I think it makes a lot, like, as you bring up the fact that Pac was doing commentary in this match and everything, it all sort of makes a lot more sense. And the fact that Pac's commentary maybe did take me out of this match a little bit, and I was maybe more focused in on what he had to say and what was going on with him necessarily than exactly what was going on with this match. They did have quite a few really cool, like, moments where, like, the Death Valley driver into the barricade, for instance, that was really cool.
That was
like, and there were cool moments like that throughout the match, but I don't agree with you in the sense of I think that Moxley has a lot to be desired because I don't think he really fits that New Japan style, and I think that him doing the G1 climax was much more of like
and it was very early
mountain type of thing necessarily than him showcasing that he's the best wrestler in the world, because I think Moxley's style is much more that grunge, attack, beat down, like destroy your opponent's style, and I think that maybe, like, Shawn Spears isn't exactly the best opponent for that, but I think
that's also very
that
fair.
They did a pretty decent job at it, in my opinion. Like I said,
they did.
I liked this match. I didn't think it was anything bad, but I think maybe the idea with Moxley is that people are maybe expecting this 5-star ring general, where that's not what he is. He's a 5-star promo.
Okay, that's fair.
He's a 5-star deathmatch guy or a 5-star hardcore match. Like, if you can involve weapons and all that, then you're going to get probably 4 to 5 stars from him. But as far as just a straight shooter, I think he's trying to get to that. I think that's why he's carrying himself a little bit differently, having a bit more of a different attire and stuff like that. But,
No, you're right. And also, I think I'm holding it up the scale of how excited I was during Moxley versus Janela. And I shouldn't be doing that because we're not going to get that many matches where Moxley can throw a guy off a ladder.
And honestly, it's the Spears thing, man. I mean, you're not gonna say it because you're a big Sean Spears fan, but this is the kind of match that I would expect from Sean Spears. So I'm not saying that it was a bad match, but it was just more or less like your average like TV kind of match. So it was good, and there were, like I said, there were enough moments that I came away from it remembering, like I said, the Death Valley Driver. And I think the thing about this match is the post match and Pac being on commentary for the match, and there was just so much hype throughout the entire show in general. Like there was just so much that it was easy for this match to sort of get lost in the crowd, maybe.
Yeah. And like you said, also the commentary definitely did take away from me because I was really interested in what Pac was saying, because I was like you were talking about earlier, it's something where he was basically doing a whole promo on commentary, and he was talking about and answering the grievances that I had of, well, why isn't Pac wrestling in a Contenders match?
Exactly, and that explains why I was able to know everything about that Darby and Havoc match. I seriously can't believe I did that. But no, like Pac, utilizing Pac in that way is perfect, and like it makes much more sense now with him being on commentary for this match, because I remember when I seen him, I was like, what the hell is Pac doing for a Moxley and Spears match? Like, what kind of angle are they gonna run here? This is freaking stupid. I wasn't complaining openly, but I was just thinking that, like, well,
it was weird.
Are we gonna pair up like Pac and Spears to randomly attack like what is going on? So I didn't understand until he started talking, and then when he started talking, I was like, this is awesome. And Pac is I think he's someone you don't expect to be like dope on the mic, but then he starts talking and you're like, holy shit, like you're really good at what you do.
Yep. And absolutely that. Pac is so good across the board, in the ring and on the mic, even on commentary, CM Punk quotes. But this match, I don't know. It's not that the match was bad. It's just it was very, you've put it very well, just average TV match, which isn't anything. It shouldn't be any more than that. So I'm not saying it's bad.
I think ever since I saw this pairing, I was never expecting a lot from it, to be honest. And I think
same.
Spears with the right opponent, and definitely Moxley with the right group of opponents, can put on really fantastic matches. But this ain't it. And I honestly think Moxley is going to be the type of person where you're not going to see his best matches on free TV. You're going to see his best matches on pay-per-view when he gets a lot of time to really get in and get going, and like utilizing weapons and doing things like that on a bigger scale. I think will maybe be where we could see that.
Yep.
But then after this match, we have Kenny Omega come out. He at least does Moxley the decency of waiting for his match to finish. I guess we didn't cover the fact Moxley did beat Sean Spears. And it was a pretty easy finish for him after Tully Blanchard got involved about 20 freaking times. So that's the idea of a manager. So that was great. But from there we get Moxley, and he comes out with a barbed wire bat and a barbed wire broom. Him and Omega and Moxley have this stare down. Omega tosses Moxley the barbed wired bat, and they're about to apparently have a Star Wars duel or something. I was wondering where this was going to go with that. It was cool as fuck, but I didn't know where they were going to go with it. And then next thing you know, Pac comes with the chair and blasts Omega in the back of the head and just leaves him laying. And wow, dude.
I thought Moxley was going to beat him down afterwards, but he didn't do that.
And I think that continues to tell a perfect story where Moxley, like, this isn't it. And I overlooked the fact that Moxley had cut a promo earlier, just talking about like how he doesn't have a right to talk any shit or do anything.
That's right.
Like, so, and I think that might have just been a social media promo, but Moxley did get to, like, he said this. He's like, I'm not saying anything. I've been out for 6 weeks. It's not my turn to say anything. But now I'm here and it's my turn, so get the hell out of my way type of thing. And I thought that was really cool. And then we get this showdown moment, and he's like, I'm not going to kick you while you're down. Like, even though he did that the first time.
Yeah, we did indeed.
So I guess that's a little weird, but it was like a cool moment, a really cool moment. A lot of cool moments throughout this whole show where I was like, I think that's why it's easy for me to get confused with where things were necessarily placed, just because there was so much that really excited me, I guess, throughout the show.
100% agreed.
And then we cut to the main event. We got Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara versus Dustin Rhodes and Hangman Page. I wasn't even sure that this would be the main event. I wasn't sure how I felt about it being the main event.
Yeah, I didn't know either.
It feels good with like the closing out segments and the way they finished it. And what did you think about the match itself, AJ?
I thought the match was actually really great, and I thought it was definitely a main event worthy match. And I was surprised that I thought that because I thought this was going to be a very average and boring match.
Dustin Rhodes is a big reason for that too.
He is very, very good and way better than I'm expecting.
Very good.
He is.
I know. It's just like almost underselling it just with that short of.
He was amazing.
Yeah, man.
He was in the ring. He was on fire. He
expected.
was kind of calling the match too, and not only was he calling the match, he was calling it super well, and he was just kind of, I don't know, like he was carrying it.
Like
honestly,
a sleeper performance that you did not expect to come from him. Like,
absolutely.
And you should have. As the commentary is talking about it, they're like, he's the legend. He's the legend.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're right, he is, because he is like,
I was doing
so
the
great.
same
like
thing.
This is so awesome. And the
was
fact
like, he
that the
is
match
the
was so
natural.
epic, I think, is what made the post-match so much better. I do think that Sammy Guevara maybe could have done a little bit more to shine for himself, but he didn't do anything to take away from himself. And I think in shining spotlights like this, maybe that's all you can ask for. And look at Sammy Guevara went from opening the show last week, now he's main eventing with Jericho. Like, wow. And the match itself, again, it was good. Hangman got to look good. Everybody got to look good, and Dustin was the one who took the pin. And I think he's him looking so good in the match that when he took the pin, it was like, okay. It wasn't even the sense of him being like a jobber, you know, where you're like, oh, he's there to eat the pin.
It was kind of also like, oh, fuck you, I didn't want him to get pinned. I'd rather have him get.
Yeah, so I thought that was like a spectacular like. The way they put this match together was really good, and you can tell that Jericho and Dustin are both vets, but like, and what a way to close out a really good show with a sweet match that went pretty long. Like, I was pretty surprised when I had heard them, and even on commentary, they're like, this is the last commercial break we're taking, and I was like, there's like 20 minutes left, dude, like, holy shit.
That was actually really incredible, and it had me hooked in. I was actually sitting on the seat watching this match, because it came to a point where I didn't know, I didn't care what was going to happen. It was just a good, awesome match to watch. And Dustin Rhodes especially, honestly, stand out. Probably the best performance of the day as far as from a single wrestler.
Yeah, as far as something you didn't see coming too, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely blew me away.
I was really surprised by that, and I think it was sweet to see like so much of wrestling Twitter and everything took on to that too. Like, they agreed. They were like, Dustin, and it wasn't, and the crowd too, they gave him the respect he deserved. It was like, holy crap. Like, because sometimes within other promotions and other matches, like, there'll be people tearing it down, giving their all, and the crowd is just sitting on their hands and nobody's paying attention. Even like if you look at the NWA show and everything that's been aired this week, I'm sure there were great matches on there that people didn't necessarily see because it's not talked about. So to see Dustin get that credit, like, people are going to check that out, and it gives him that little bit of an added edge or whatever going forward. So I thought that was awesome.
Absolutely.
Like I said, a great main event that really made everybody look good and didn't make anybody look bad, which is, that's all you can ask for.
Yeah.
And from there, we close out, the match is closing out. We've got them beating down Dustin. Adam Page comes in and takes out Jake Hager with a chair, which was pretty cool. I liked that in itself, like, to set up, it's going to be Hager versus Page. Now, can Page have a good match with Jake Hager? That's a test I want to see.
Oh, yeah. Then I think he can, but also I think it's going to be really cool to see how he handles such a bigger opponent.
Yeah, man, I think it'll be a good type of David versus Goliath type of thing for him. Even though he's not that much smaller, it does add that little bit of like another thing for him to have to overcome. So that was pretty cool. Them obviously setting that, and him throwing the chair and everything. Like, it was a cool little moment. And then we have Santana and Ortiz. They blindside. Oh wait, the lights go out. Cody Rhodes shows up, and that was pretty cool. I think people might have. Like, what were you expecting when the lights went out?
I didn't like it. Because when the lights go out, I'm expecting something that I'm not supposed to expect. Yeah, like something entirely different.
See, I'm
well, but anything. Like, you could have been anybody who just doesn't fit the situation, but it was Cody, so I was just like, you could have just come out.
He's like a hero.
Yeah, he's a Superman.
He's a superhero. He had to appear, like, without them knowing exactly where he would be. He had to catch them off guard. Which makes sense, because it's him versus numbers. I'm right there with you, man. I really don't know how I feel about the fact, like, Cody Rhodes comes out with like, the darkness. I'm with you. We should be getting a surprise or some type of crazy thing, and instead we just got Cody. But I was still really hyped up about it. I'm not going to lie. And the reason is they were able to transition next to the next moment that really took me in. We have everybody beating down on Cody Rhodes, LAX, Chris Jericho, Sammy Guevara. They got the numbers on Cody, and then of course MJF hits the ring with the chair.
Awesome.
And I really thought it was going to be the moment he turned. I'm sitting there looking, and I'm like, oh no, man, please, like, not this early, because it's becoming so special and so cool. And sure enough, he doesn't turn. He turns around and hits Jericho and hits everybody with the chair, makes the save, but he ends up getting laid out himself.
I hated that. I wanted him to just win. I wanted him to save the day.
No. They had to get the Bucks out there, brother.
I know, but you know what I'm
he
saying. He
still got his moment, and he got, like,
he did.
And it was still enough of him being smarmy about it to where I can still see him as being a heel, which is so perfect. Like, him pulling on his ear and everything, like, just like, I wasn't gonna do it, got you guys, like, you idiots. And he's gonna just that's gonna be his thing too, and that's the perfect thing for him, is he can lean right into that and be like, you dumb fans, you really think I would turn on Cody? And it's for a way for him to just maintain that heel persona. And man, are people gonna flip when he finally does it, because now they've gotten us a couple times. And they got me this time. They got me hard.
They definitely got me this time. I didn't expect that at all.
I was literally marking out as a fan.
I was ready
for
it
no. Yes. Like, just literally. So that was pretty much one of the moments that made this whole episode for me as a fan. Like, just like being able to really get into it and be like, holy crap, this is happening. But then the Young Bucks come out to make the save, and they finally have enough numbers to sort of even the odds and send Jericho and everybody to the back. As Jericho's making his way to the back, though, Darby Allin makes his way to the ring on a skateboard, in what I thought was literally shocking.
And you're absolutely right, and I didn't expect Darby Allin. I think I was so overwhelmed with everything that I didn't even expect Darby Allin. It was out of my mind, so when he showed up, I actually marked out.
Yeah, it was something that I also wasn't expecting. I might have been expecting maybe a surprise, and I think that was what was so perfect about it, is they were consistently hitting with surprises that I wasn't expecting, but it was nothing too over the top as well, so I was still hyped up for it, like MJF getting involved. Or Cody being, like, even though the lights went out and Cody's the guy that it was, I was like, okay, cool, Cody Rhodes. So there was just so much to get excited about, at least from that standpoint or that perspective as a fan, you know? So, but overall, I think that what a great way to close out the show too. I mean, going into this main event, I was sitting there thinking to myself, what exactly are they going to do, or how exactly are they going to be able to, like top net last week in the sense of bringing fans, wanting fans to tune back in, and I think that's a great part about some wrestling shows, is when they're closing it up or when they're finishing, you have that desire, that want to tune in again next week, instead of just having a match and the finish and that's it. There's really that draw to pull you in, and this was that draw for me.
I think not only that, it also made me happy that they didn't bury the heel stable. They won the match, and they didn't even really get they didn't get shut out. They it took an equal number of people just to hold them back, and then Jericho was still walking away.
It took a skateboard to drop Jericho, and Jericho cut a promo as he left. I thought that was something I took notice of as well. Like, Jericho got to look really good while exiting and while leaving, and I thought that was really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And the whole stable still looks very strong to me, which is just ideal, I think.
Yeah, as you said, the whole stable, and that's a good thing. Like, they weren't rushed into matches. Like, LAX wasn't rushed into a match on this show that they could lose or anything, so they continue to look strong. And Guevara picks up a victory alongside Jericho, so that's just a positive for both sides, really.
Absolutely, yeah.
But a fantastic way to end another episode of AEW Dynamite. AJ, do you have any closing thoughts?
Not really. I think it was a better show than last week's, because it was just even across the board. There was never really a dip in quality. Everything felt very on the up, and everything felt very well produced. Like, I think also they had less issues with cutaways this time, because last episode they kept cutting to fans. I think it wrong times, but
Yeah.
in this one that happened. If it happened, I didn't notice it at all. And overall, I just think the show, if it keeps up like this, we're gonna see the ratings go up and up and up.
Like I already predicted, brother, because
Yep.
what a show, man, from top to bottom. I could tell you that if I was like trying to get someone interested in wrestling or like a new promotion, I might not even necessarily like the first week was fine, it was good, but this
Yeah.
week is a week where I can say this was like a week to like really write home
Absolutely.
to like. And what was your Wednesday night's main event, brother? What was your match of the week?
I think it was Private Party and the Young Bucks for me
Yeah, I
personally.
think it's hard to argue that one. Once again, I think I think last week there were people who were definitely willing to argue us on that match of the week. There were people going with Pac and Paige, and other people going with the Cody Rhodes match. But I'm still sticking with Rio and Nyla Rose. But
Yeah, same.
this week, I think the Young Bucks versus Private Party is an undisputed choice, man.
So good.
I would be willing to hear out an argument on maybe another match or two, but Havoc and Allen, they didn't really get a ton of time to go, so it was a good match, but nothing better than that tag team match. But it was still a perfect like sequence of events within this show. So what an awesome show. What a way to open the show, and what a way to close Wednesday nights, man. I'm so excited for things as we continue. Like, I really wouldn't be surprised to see a tick up in the ratings, so we'll have to wait and see till tomorrow. But go ahead and plug your social media, AJ.
You can follow me on Twitter at BigMatchAJ, and you can follow me on Instagram at AJTheFitzy.
And as always, you can follow the podcast on Twitter at All Elite Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at All Elite Everything. You can check us out on Discord and chat with me and AJ at discord.io/All Elite Podcast. You can also check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/All Elite Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/All Elite Andy or at All Elite Andy. Until next week, thank you guys for tuning in. See ya.
What?